In this extensive conversation, Peter Zeihan offers a sweeping analysis of the evolving geopolitical and economic landscape shaped by demographic shifts, technological advances, energy challenges, and shifting global alliances. He discusses America's strategic advantages, China's demographic and geographic vulnerabilities, the impact of AI and automation, global supply chains, the future of energy and green technology, and the dynamics of ongoing conflicts such as Russia-Ukraine. Zeihan also delves into shifting internal politics shaped by generational divides, the fragility of certain alliances, and emerging powers, providing a nuanced picture of the complex forces shaping the world today. Zeihan opens by noting that the United States' global standing in the upcoming era owes less to unmatched brilliance and more to the systemic failures faced by other nations. The security and trade advantages of the Western Hemisphere, with friendly neighbors Canada and Mexico, allow America to navigate globalized trade without significant threat to its supply chains. Unlike countries like China, the U.S. is not dependent on external trade to sustain its economy, especially with its ability to export food and energy, which China imports in massive volumes. While boosting domestic industrial capacity requires time and investment, it is achievable, as history has shown. The U.S. consumer base remains a potent geopolitical tool, and maintaining open markets is essential to preserving alliances forged during the Cold War. China is facing an unprecedented demographic collapse, having stopped significant population growth some 45 years ago. Zeihan highlights how the current population pyramid is top-heavy, with more people over 50 than under, undermining economic sustainability. This is compounded by regional geographic limitations. The Yellow River, supporting the majority of China's population, is unnavigable and has historically contributed to internal trade deficiencies. The Yangtze River Basin, politically and culturally distinct, adds further fragmentation. Northern China's soil quality and drought susceptibility make it vulnerable to civilizational collapse if logistics falter. Furthermore, official demographic data has been distorted for decades, with recent revelations suggesting China has overcounted its population by hundreds of millions, and India is now the world's most populous country. Zeihan stresses that no economic model currently exists to sustain China's demographic and geopolitical position over the next decade. A key historical shift came after World War II, when the United States used its naval supremacy not to build empires, but to enforce a new global trade architecture, one without military coercion, no guns at the meetings. This allowed formerly isolated powers like China to integrate into the global economy, with security backed by the U.S. Navy. Alliances formed during the Cold War used economic incentives to bind countries into a common framework. However, this model depends on reciprocal openness, and recent political currents in the U.S. threaten to unravel this delicate balance by fostering protectionism while expecting compliance, which is unsustainable long-term. Zeihan differentiates the impact of AI across sectors, arguing that 80% of current AI applications target white-collar jobs, often threatening to make such roles redundant or more productive rather than replacing blue-collar labor. Jobs requiring physical skills, such as welders and electricians, face shortages rather than automation displacement. While China aggressively pursues AI and robotics, these technologies cannot solve demographic challenges tied to reproduction and consumption. Robots cannot pay taxes or raise children, and AI alone cannot physically produce goods. The demographic decline constrains consumption and growth in ways that technological fixes cannot overcome. Beyond China, several developed nations, including Japan, South Korea, Germany, and Italy, face steep fertility declines, with Japan having implemented some effective policies to soften the blow. India and Mexico remain relatively younger populations with more potential for demographic resilience. Across the board, countries are sliding into demographic decline at varying rates, and the economic models, rooted in a balance of labor and capital, are being stressed. Immigration is viewed more as a temporary crutch than a lasting fix, requiring early and sustained efforts. Late starts, such as in Germany, necessitate untenable migration scales to halt decline. Political and economic implications of these shifts are profound, including shrinking consumer bases and strained pension systems. Age cohorts reveal stark political tendencies. with younger generations leaning toward more progressive and redistributive policies, while older cohorts become increasingly conservative and resistant to change. This inversion is unusual, influenced by demographic pressures and mounting economic challenges. The fragmentation of traditional political parties, especially in the US, complicates narratives. Distinct groups categorized as liberal or conservative often have conflicting views and priorities. This complexity challenges simplistic political analyses amidst a volatile global environment. Zeihan views the elevation of Saudi Arabia to a major non-NATO ally as symbolic rather than a genuine alliance, given the kingdom's controversial history, including involvement in global jihadist movements and the brutal murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi. While strategic oil interests once cemented partnerships during the Cold War, today's geopolitical calculations remain fraught with mistrust and ethical dilemmas. The energy transition is impeded by technological and geographic realities. Subsidies currently drive electric vehicle adoption in many places, but without them, sales plummet due to high costs and supply chain constraints, particularly for critical minerals like lithium, cobalt, graphite, and copper. Most electricity generation is still fossil fuel-based, and the carbon footprint to manufacture EVs often exceeds that of conventional vehicles, especially in regions reliant on coal. Nuclear energy holds promise, particularly with small modular reactors, but prototype delays and infrastructure challenges, such as lacking high-voltage transmission lines, slow progress. Renewable sources like solar and wind have limited applicability geographically and cannot currently provide reliable dispatchable power. Copper stands out as the essential mineral for grid expansion, but global mining and refining capacity is limited, increasing dependency on countries like Chile, China, and India for processing. Global supply chains remain vulnerable without a security guarantor. China plays a pivotal role in ore processing, creating a critical bottleneck that must be diversified. Food security has stabilized due to diversified fertilizer supplies despite Russian sanctions, but manufacturing in sectors like agriculture equipment is retreating due to tariffs and complexity. Shipping disruptions remain a risk, but have been managed so far, as regional actors seek stability to preserve trade flows. The Ukraine war exemplifies a new revolution in military affairs, accelerated by digital technologies. Innovations such as mass drone deployments, drone interceptors, and asymmetric warfare have rapidly evolved over months, reshaping the battlefield unpredictably. Ukraine's partnership with Western nations fuels real-time experimentation with these technologies, offering lessons that could alter future warfare globally. The conflict remains the most significant present geopolitical flashpoint due to its nuclear implications and its broader impact on Eurasian power dynamics. Zeihan expresses skepticism about the significance of South China Sea disputes, noting that the area is surrounded by hostile nations and features shallow waters unsuitable for submarine advantage. The artificial islands created by China face structural problems, and despite possessing many ships, China's naval power remains inferior to that of the US in capability and operational reach. Any attempt to assert dominance requires overcoming entrenched regional opposition and the first island chain, and failing that, Chinese ambitions remain limited. Mexico quietly rises as a major industrial partner of the United States, significantly larger and more capable than often recognized. Its geographic proximity, skilled workforce, and integrated infrastructure place it on the trajectory to become a top trading partner and regional power, provided it maintains stable relations and continues to develop its industrial base. However, Mexico faces its internal challenges that must be managed to realize its full potential. Vietnam stands out as a young, technically skilled population with a fascist government that could become a major U.S. trading partner. Japan represents a fragile but critical alliance. Its naval power has grown, and its economic security deals with the U.S. have been unstable amid American political turbulence. Japan's future relationship with the U.S. is vital for regional stability, as its enhanced capabilities may shift the balance in East Asia. Peter Zeihan's work and insights, including his newsletters, video logs, and upcoming fiction book, can be followed at Zeihan.com, where he provides ongoing analysis rooted in these complex, intersecting global trends.